I've never told this to anyone. Not really. Not the truth of it. People think stories like mine come with warning signs, dramatic backstories, violent men, broken homes. Maybe all of that is true. Maybe none of it matters. What mattered, in the end, was money, rent, food, enough gas to make it to the next shift and back. And when those stopped being optional, when the world stopped blinking at my resume and started seeing right through me, I made a choice. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe it was made for me the day I walked into that agency with a borrowed name and a smile too tired to be real. I became an escort. They dressed it up nicely, of course. Companion, discreet, high-value clientele. But you learn quickly how thin the silk really is when it's only there to cover survival. Most clients blurred together, their faces smeared with whiskey, their voices laced with guilt they didn't know how to name. They wanted bodies, not conversation. Or worse, they wanted a fantasy they could control. I became good at giving them what they wanted without giving them anything at all. But then there was him. He didn't ask for anything physical. Not once. Our first meeting was in a penthouse suite, glass walls overlooking the city, the windows dressed in gold from the evening sun. Jazz played low. A bottle of red wine had already been uncorked. He looked ordinary, which is to say, dangerous. Men like him blend in. "Alina," he said, like he already knew me. He was clean-shaven, expensive watch, the kind of shoes you don't scuff. Mid-40s maybe, or older but well-preserved. His voice was soft, deliberate, like every word had been measured before release. "I don't need anything from you tonight," he said, pouring the wine. "Just your time." I laughed. Awkward. That's what they all say. But he didn't laugh back. He just sat across from me, legs crossed, glass untouched, eyes fixed, not on my body, on me. "Are you happy when you smile?" he asked. Not "how are you?" Not "what's your name," really. That. I blinked, unsure how to answer. The room felt suddenly colder than it should have. I took a sip of wine to stall. "I guess that depends," I said. "On what? On whether I'm smiling for someone else or for me." That made him smile. The first crack in his stillness. "You're interesting," he said. I shrugged. "You're paying for interesting." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "No, I'm paying for honesty." That caught me off guard. The second rule in my job after Stay Safe was never get honest. Honesty was vulnerability, and vulnerability got expensive fast. But I didn't leave. I don't know why. Something in his presence held me still. We didn't talk much more that first night. Just music and wine and glances that lingered a second too long. At the end of the hour, he stood up, walked me to the door and said, "I'd like to see you again, same time, next week." No kiss, no tip, just those eyes watching. And for reasons I still don't understand, I said, "Okay." When I got home that night, I looked in the mirror. Not the usual quick check for smudges glance, a real look. My dress still clung to me like silk, but I felt wrong, like I had been seen through, peeled back, not violated, but studied. I should have felt relieved. No sex, no touching. Easiest money I'd ever made, but all I felt was a knot in my stomach, and it only got tighter. The second meeting was at a different hotel. Not cheaper, just colder, less charm, more steel and glass. The kind of place that forgets you as soon as you check out. The room smelled like lavender and money. The jazz was already playing again, Coltrane this time, I think, and he was waiting, like before, Same black slacks, same navy shirt, same stillness, like he had been placed there, not born there. He poured wine before I even sat down. No lipstick tonight, he said. Casual, but watching. Did you prefer it? I asked, settling into the chair across from him. No, he replied, but I noticed. That was the thing about him. He always noticed. Everything. The chipped polish on my left thumb, the book peeking out of my bag, the bruise behind my knee I hadn't realized was visible. And he asked questions. Always the same rhythm. Soft, gentle, but with teeth underneath. If you could start over, he said that night, would you still choose this life? I laughed again. A little too loud. You mean, would I choose to be a paid emotional support fantasy for men who think they're paying for silence? He smiled, unshaken. That's not an answer. I swirled the wine in my glass, not drinking it. I didn't choose this life. It just didn't say no to me. You say that like it's a bad thing. It's not a good thing. Silence, not awkward, just heavy. You have a good memory, I said, changing the subject. Most men forget what I wore 2 minutes after I leave. I remember everything about you, he said, like it was a fact, not a compliment. And somehow, that scared me more than anything. The third time, he asked, do you think you're being watched? I froze. What? He looked out the window, the skyline reflected in his wine glass. Sometimes, he said slowly, when I walk into a room, I can tell who's being observed and who's doing the observing. Most people don't know how to look anymore. Only how to scroll. You think I'm being watched? I asked. He turned back to me. I think you don't know who's watching. I laughed, forced and thin. Is this the part where you tell me you're a retired spy? He smiled, but his eyes didn't. Would you believe me? No, I said, but I'd probably still come back, and that was the most honest thing I'd said all night. There was something about him. Unsettling, yes, but compelling. Not like danger. Not exactly. More like precision, like being dissected with a scalpel instead of a knife. He asked me once what my real name was. I didn't answer. He didn't ask again, but I knew he knew it. The fourth time, he gave me a small black box. I didn't open it. He didn't explain, just placed it beside the wine and said, for after. When I got home that night, I opened it in the dark. Inside, a mirror, just a mirror, and a note slipped behind the glass. You only lie to yourself when you look away. That night, I didn't sleep. Because the worst part wasn't what he asked me. The worst part was that I started asking myself the same things, and I didn't like the answers. It wasn't like him to be late. That was the first sign. Our meetings had always been precise. An email from the agency, a time, a place, always upscale, always discreet. But this time, nothing came. Not a cancellation, not a reschedule, not a word. I waited. 1 day, 2, 3, then I called. The agency receptionist, a girl who chewed gum like she was bored of men and money, sounded genuinely confused when I gave her his alias. Let me check, she said, keys tapping. Silence. Are you sure that's the name he used? I've seen the invoices, I said. He booked 4 sessions with me. Always in cash, always through you. More typing. I'm sorry, she said. There's no client by that name in our system, and no bookings for you at those locations. Maybe someone handled it off record? I only do agency bookings. Well, she trailed off. Then I don't know what to tell you. The line went dead. Not rudely, just gone. Like she'd vanished too. That night, I went back through everything. Old texts from the agency, receipts. But none of them mentioned him directly. No names. Just dates, locations. I hadn't even realized how cleanly he'd arranged it, how invisible he was, even when standing right in front of me. No phone number, no surname, no trace. And then, a week later, the package arrived. A plain manila envelope, no return address, no markings. Inside, a flash drive. That was it. I remember standing in the kitchen with it in my palm, still unopened. My heart was beating fast, irrationally fast. Like I already knew it wasn't just spam or porn or some twisted joke. I plugged it into my laptop. The screen stayed black for a second longer than usual. Then, grainy footage. My bedroom. Me, asleep. The timestamp was from 3 nights ago. I stared, breath caught in my throat, watching myself shift under the sheets. The camera was still, fixed. From the far corner, like it had been placed carefully. There was no sound at first, just the faint hum of city traffic through the cracked window. Then, a whisper, low, warped, distorted. "You're beautiful when you're real," the voice said. Then silence. Then, "Don't go back to that life." The video ended. I sat frozen in my chair, the dark reflection of the screen staring back at me. My breath fogged the air. I hadn't realized I was crying until I tasted the salt on my lips. That was the last night I spent in that apartment. I'd packed what I could fit in 2 duffel bags. Clothes, IDs, the mirror he'd given me. Everything else stayed. By dawn, I had a burner phone and a train ticket under another name. New city, new face, new lie. I left the agency, deleted the contacts, cut all ties. For the first time in years, I became nobody again. And for a few days, it worked. Until I started noticing the man in the hoodie. He never followed me directly. He never came too close, just appeared outside the cafe, across the street from my building, once in the reflection of a subway window, never lingering. Just long enough for me to feel watched. I changed my route, my locks, my job, but not the feeling. And then, last week, another envelope. No flash drive this time. Just a letter, handwritten, black ink on thick ivory paper. "You made the right choice, but I'm still watching." I don't remember dropping it. But when I looked down, it was no longer in my hand. Just a faint trace of his cologne on my fingers. That same scent I'd only smelled in hotel rooms lit by jazz. The scent I now smelled on my pillow. I should have destroyed it. That's what you're supposed to do when something scares you, right? When something worms its way into your mind like a splinter you can't see, you burn it, delete it, throw it in a river and forget it existed. But I didn't. The flash drive sat on my nightstand like a relic. Black, innocent, still, grain. I couldn't touch it again, not for days. But I couldn't let it go either. It started to feel like a ritual. Wake up, check the locks, glance at the nightstand, flash drive still there? Good, not cursed, not possessed, just evidence. Evidence of what, though? Of him? Or of me? I told myself I needed to watch it again, that I had to make sure I hadn't imagined it. That maybe, just maybe, it was all a trick of lighting and fear. A glitch, a prank, anything but what it really was. So I watched. This time, I noticed more. The frame wasn't static. There was a flicker, subtle, almost imperceptible, like the lens was adjusting, focusing in and out, as if someone was breathing behind the camera, close enough to fog the lens. The room was still. I was still, but the shot wasn't. And then the whisper again, softer than before. "You're beautiful when you're real." The words didn't sound romantic. They sounded disappointed, like I'd been faking it all along, and only now was I worth seeing. The video went on a few seconds longer this time. My lips moved, just a twitch at first, then more, like I was speaking in my sleep, but no sound came out. I leaned closer. I could just barely make it out. I was whispering one word, "Stop," over and over. "Stop, stop, stop, stop." I felt the bile rise in my throat. I didn't remember dreaming, didn't remember any nightmares that week, but something inside me, something deeper than memory, knew I hadn't been alone. I ran to the bathroom, splashed water on my face until my hands trembled. Then I caught my own reflection and almost didn't recognize it. Wide eyes, pale skin, the face of a girl who knew she was still being watched. He was gone, but not gone. Just quieter now, quieter than memory. That night, I pushed my dresser in front of the door. I slept with a knife under my pillow, and still I didn't feel safe because it wasn't just the video. It was everything that came after. The doorman at my new building, polite, forgettable, asking me how my cat was. I didn't have a cat. The sound of jazz drifting from an apartment above me when no one lived there yet. The same brand of red wine I used to drink with him, delivered to my door with no card. And then, a few nights later, I woke up gasping. No dreams, no sound, just that feeling again. That watched feeling. I checked every lock, every closet, every inch of that sterile little apartment. Nothing. But when I looked at the window, there was a smudge, high up, just to the right, like a fingertip had pressed against the glass. From the outside, I lived on the 7th floor. I stood there for a long time, my breath fogging the pain as I stared at that single, perfect print. I didn't touch it. I didn't wipe it away. I wanted to remember, needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. But deep down, I already knew. The flash drive wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. And whatever he was, he hadn't just been studying me. He had changed me. Disappearing isn't as easy as they make it seem in movies. You can change your name, your hair, your city, your story, but the skin never peels off. The soul keeps the original scars, and every mirror is a liability. I went west, somewhere flat, dry, a place where the wind erased your footsteps before you even finished taking them. No forwarding address, no paper trail. I paid cash for everything. Cheap studio, mattress on the floor, no internet, no social media, no agency. I found a job wiping down tables at a roadside cafe, no questions asked. Just burnt coffee and bad country music. I thought, this is it. This is anonymous. This is safe. But safety has a sound, and I never stopped hearing his. I'd sit outside the diner after closing, smoking cheap cigarettes I never finished, watching the shadows move just a little too deliberately across the parking lot. Sometimes a man in a hoodie passed by the window, never looking in, never lingering, but always timed too perfectly, just as I happened to glance up. I stopped answering unknown numbers. I started sleeping with my phone in airplane mode. Still, the texts came from a number that always read, "No caller ID." "You're quieter now. I like that." "Don't look behind you. He's already gone." "Did you think you could erase me?" I changed my number again. Burned the old phone in a trash can behind the cafe. Got a new one from a pawn shop 2 towns over. But the next morning, that familiar bottle of red wine was sitting outside my door, unopened, still cold. And the note? Try harder. I didn't cry. Not anymore. Fear, when repeated enough, calcifies into something else. Exhaustion. Numbness. A low-level hum of survival that never stops vibrating under the skin. I quit the cafe. Left in the middle of the night with 1 backpack and a bus ticket to nowhere. Changed my name again, but no matter how many names I buried myself beneath, I couldn't kill the one part of me that still answered to his voice. The voice that said, "You're beautiful when you're real." I started wondering if I had made him up. If I was cracked down the middle, and all of this, the flash drive, the wine, the fingertip on the window, was just trauma chewing through my wiring. So I saw a therapist, under a fake name, in a clinic with humming lights and too many motivational posters. I told her bits and pieces, never the whole. Just enough to seem unwell, but not insane. She asked if I'd been diagnosed before. She asked if I'd ever experienced hallucinations. I asked her if reality was always supposed to hurt this much. She told me that disassociation was common among trauma survivors, that the brain invents patterns, narratives, that stalkers rarely sustain long-term interest, that surveillance fantasies are often symbolic, not literal. "Maybe you created him," she said, tilting her head in that clinical way. "A figure who sees you in a way no one else ever did, but also controls you. Maybe he's not a person. Maybe he's a part of you." That night, I almost believed her. Almost, until I got home and found my bathroom mirror cracked. Just one hairline fracture running from my left eye to my lips, and a note written in soap. "This is the last time I'll warn you." There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing stolen, nothing moved. But I knew he'd been here. He'd always been here. Because what if he wasn't imaginary? What if he was real, but no one else could see him? What if the act of disappearing only made him more interested? A challenge, a test, an invitation. The last time I ran, I didn't tell anyone, not even myself. I got on a train at midnight. No destination, just motion, just escape. And still, somewhere in the darkness, I caught it. That scent again. His cologne, like ink and smoke and endings. And when I looked out the train window, I saw a reflection in the seat behind me, not mine, his, smiling. I haven't heard from him in months. No texts, no flash drives, no bottles of wine. The silence is worse than the noise, because silence makes you think he's gone, and hope is far more dangerous than fear. I tell myself I'm free now. I work at a bookstore, quiet place. The kind of job that feels like therapy if you don't look too closely at the receipts. I read a lot of poetry, mostly dead women. Anne Sexton, Sylvia Plath, voices that swallowed their own echoes. I wonder what he would say about that. Would he approve? Would he watch? I don't know. I've stopped trying to guess. I rent a small house on the edge of a sleepy coastal town. Windy, salt-washed, the kind of place that smells like endings. My neighbors wave but don't ask questions. That's the kind of kindness I need. Not warm, but distant. I haven't told anyone who I was, or what I did, or what I ran from. Sometimes I wonder if I should have turned him in. But to who? There was no name, no address, just a scent, a voice, a pattern. And if I tried to explain it, what would I even say? There was a man who never touched me, but still changed everything. He whispered things that felt like prayers and curses all at once. He filmed me sleeping and said it was because I looked honest. They'd put me in a padded room and lose the key, so I stay quiet. Every morning I make coffee, feed the stray cat that keeps showing up on my porch, water the wilting plant I pretend to love. I try to build something resembling peace or penance, and I almost believe I've made it. Until last night. I came home late. The wind was sharp, the sky full of stars that looked too bright to be real. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, turned on the lights, and stopped because the scent hit me before anything else. Not strong, not overwhelming, just unmistakable. Cologne. His. That impossible mix of ink and citrus and something like smoke, the kind of smell you feel in your ribs, the kind that makes time collapse. There was nothing out of place, not visibly. But I checked everything. Windows locked, doors bolted, no signs of entry. And yet, I knew. He'd been here. The final proof? A single white envelope, no name, no address, just tucked beneath the welcome mat, like it belonged. I opened it on the porch. The sea wind tugged at the corners. Inside, one line, handwritten in the same black ink as before. You passed. That's all it said. No signature, no threat, no explanation. Just, you passed. I stared at the words for so long they stopped meaning anything. Then I went inside, poured a drink, and sat by the window until dawn. I still don't know what I passed. Was it a test? A punishment? A ritual? Maybe he wanted to see if I could disappear, or if I'd become something different, something smaller, quieter, real. Maybe he wanted me broken just enough to let go of who I was, without shattering completely. Or maybe there was never a he at all. Maybe he was everything I hated about myself, wearing a suit and a voice and a scent I could name. Maybe he was the ghost of the girl I used to be, haunting me to make sure I didn't go back. I don't know. But I do know this. I haven't escorted since the night I watched myself sleep. I haven't lied to myself about why I did it. I haven't forgotten that feeling of being seen and not flinching. So maybe that was the test. And maybe that was the reward. Or maybe the cologne was still on my coat from years ago, and I finally lost my mind. But tonight, when I stepped outside to bring in the cat, I noticed something new. Not threatening, not obvious. Just a single rose placed on my porch railing, white, unbruised, like someone had chosen it, deliberately. I didn't touch it. Just stood there for a long while, breathing in that faint, impossible scent, and I whispered to no one, I know you're still watching. Then I closed the door and locked it quietly.